Hi guys, and welcome to a new video on Sonal's life. So we are back for another video, and whether you will agree with my thoughts going forward or not is going to be an odd one, because we have just had the New Japan Strong, so that is the American branch of New Japan, their Windy City Riot show in Chicago. Now I'm going to go through all the matches. We had some special singles matches, some title matches, and personally for me, I think it was one of the strongest New Japan Strong shows there has been since the brand was created back during the pandemic. There was some really interesting decisions that will really affect what is happening with the company going forward. And while they might not all be the most positive, I personally thought everything was great on the show. So yeah, let's have a look at it and see what it could mean for the future of New Japan. Let's get going. Okay, so I'm literally doing this a few hours after the show ends. I had a bit of a nap. I have not yet managed to watch the pre-show, but it was really good showcasing some talent from New Japan Strong. In particularly the women's match, they had Trish Adora, Alex Windsor, Viva Van and Mina Shirakawa. And then the men's match had Matt Vandergriff and Zayn J. Again, bringing in wrestlers from Stardom, from different promotions from the UK in the case of Alex Windsor. And if you don't know about Alex Windsor, you should definitely go and check her out, because she's a phenomenal wrestler based here in the UK. But we started the main show and they started off strong with Minoru Suzuki versus Ren Narita. For most casuals, they'll be like, this makes no sense. We don't need to see House of Torture. But it really does, because when Suzuki-gun disbanded back in, God, it seems like ages ago now, I think it's 2022 in December, Suzuki and Despy created their own faction called Strong Style. And one of their first members was Ren Narita, and he seemed to be the perfect fit until he betrayed them and joined the House of Torture. Now this match, it went 7 minutes and it saw Narita win. However, what I like, and we will talk about this later on, is this was a match, there was cheating of course, but it didn't have the House of Torture interference. Now obviously most of the House of Torture guys are in Taiwan for their show. So yes, while Narita won with a bit of cheating, his crowbar pushing the ref, it was just the typical heel tactics that fans like. It shows that outside the House of Torture, without the guys there, Narita can have a proper heel match without all of those shenanigans and based on himself. I think this was the perfect way to sort of cement Narita going forward and maybe influence what happens later in the show, because he has vanquished, I guess, somebody from his past. Minoru Suzuki, the man who is Strong Style, and he can now take that moniker and style going forward. We then had a title match straight away. Out of the bat, it was for the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, and we had the champion Stephanie Vaquer faces, I'm gonna say this wrong, is it I'm so bad, Azim from Stardom. Now, as you know, I don't really watch Stardom, and this match was only 10 minutes 50, but this match had everything and the kitchen sink in it in the best way possible. I said this coming out, like, as soon as the match started. The visuals of this match were perfect. We had one side, the darker ring gear versus the light ring gear, and that showed with the style. I've never watched Stephanie Vaquer wrestle, but I think she is phenomenal. The two of them had a really nice dynamic with each other. There was never a moment of stillness. There was always something going on, and I think that is why the short match actually benefited the two women. Vaquer actually retained in a phenomenal match. She got a package backbreaker, and following that, Alex Windsor actually came out and challenged for the title, which is cool because this was actually her New Japan Strong debut. And for anyone who's watched Alex Windsor, you know she has won titles across the world, across companies. So this is perfect for her. And it'll be nice to see her in more New Japan Strong shows. The title matches then kept on coming as we had the New Japan Strong Tag Team Champions, so the open weight, which was previously held by ELP and Hikuleo, so GOD. They were facing the Mighty Don't Kneels, Mikey Nichols and Shane Hayes, so my boys. Fred Rosser and Tom Lawler, and Jarrell Nelson and Royce Isaacs. Now, because I've watched the New Japan Strong shows for a while, albeit sporadically, I know all 8 men in this ring. And it was great. I've said this time and time again, and I sound like a broken record sometimes. But while New Japan always thrives, and I think most companies thrive off traditional championship matches, when it comes to the tag divisions, I think that is the exception. It was wildly chaotic. There was a bit of strictness in the sense that only 2 men could be in the ring. It made for some nice surprise tags between the members and between the participants in the ring, and there was some nice different interaction between all the wrestlers. You had the 2 groups who were mainly the New Japan stays, and then the 2 guys who, for New Japan fans, are known as the Strong Guys. What was quite funny, so in the end it seemed like Hikuleo was going to pin, I think it was either Jarrell Nelson or Royce Isaac. But again, with the rule of tagging in, Shane Haste tagged and got the win. And it was quite funny because obviously they realised how that happened. So Shane and Mikey ran off with the belts. We then had the other 2 teams having a battle, and I think this is going to link to a feud coming up. But as much as I love ELP and Hikuleo, and you know I do, this is a long-awaited win for TMDK. We know how strong they are as a team. For months we've been saying they need titles. While they're not the IWGP tag titles, which are firmly back with Bishamon, yay Bishamon, this is a really good step for the 2 of them. And hopefully we're going to see them do more and more shows both in the US and New Japan, because hell, they are loved so much. And I think this was, and if you watch later on, this was kind of a nice setting stone for the future of TMDK, I think. And yeah, I think the combination of Mikey Nicholls and Shane Haste is one of the best things that's happened in the history of pro wrestling. 2 guys who couldn't be more different, who gel so well, and they are really going to be great representatives of New Japan Strong, following on from the legacy that ELP and Hikuleo had. Now, following from this, there was a nice mix of title and non-title matches. We had Shota Umino facing Jack Perry. Now, everyone knows what happened on Wednesday on AEW. We saw AEW air the footage between CM Punk and Jack Perry from All In. Now, while I don't think it really benefited anyone, maybe except CM Punk, who people seem to be more obsessed with him, this was the best thing that could have happened to Jack Perry ahead of this show. So he came out with like a shit ton of security guards with like shields and stuff, and the crowds were booing him. He had a jacket that I think said Cry Me a River, and the heat was instantaneous. And what I'm going to say about this match and why it was probably the best match we've seen between the 2 of them, like with the Narita match, with the House of Torture not there, Jack Perry just had a phenomenal match. He proved why he is a great wrestler and did that balancing with the heat. On the other side, Shota Umino is the perfect babyface. He came out, and I'm going to say this again, I love you, Shota, but can you cut your entrance down by like 5 minutes? He was giving wristbands out to little kids, greeting people. And so he perfectly counteracted this heel persona that Perry thrived on for this. He was swearing at the crowds. He was lapping up the chants that were coming in the bucket loads. And in the end, and I know people saying this is controversial, Shota Umino got the win. And why do I think this was perfect? So, I don't think Jack Perry needed a win to benefit from this match. We saw from the reaction on the heel heat, and I guess some of the positive heat he got, he is over as hell. Shota, on the other hand, needed it. He has had a series of loss after loss after loss after loss since coming back from Excursion, whether it was Will Ospreay, Evil, New Japan Cup, G1. So this was really needed. And at the end, shockingly, Shota Umino and Jack Perry had a sign of respect as Perry put his hand out and shook him, and they had a hug. And going out, Jack Perry was greeting the fans. I mean, he flipped him off before, but then he was greeting the fans who were cheering him. And it makes me think, is this Jack Perry's time over in New Japan? Has Tony Khan realised, right, okay, we should capitalise on the heat to bring him back? If that's the case, I'm glad that New Japan had a positive, hopefully, a positive impact on Perry, and that he has learnt new things, and if he ever wants to come back, he still has a home with House of Torture. But I rightly think that this was a win that Shota Umino needed. And then we went to another non-title match, and okay, so this was not the night for Los Ingobernables de Japón fans. However, I think that this show was very good for storytelling, as we had Mustafa Ali facing Hiromu Takahashi. Now, if any of you know that I started watching wrestling and was obsessed with 205 Live, this has made my inner fangirl dreams come true. The match started quite funny, so obviously the story is that Mustafa Ali doesn't get Hiromu. He's coming out with stuffed toys. Bear in mind, Daryl had some steroids pumped in him because he was jacked. And there was a bit of playfulness in there where Hiromu was using Daryl to his advantage. But at the end of the day, it was an amazing match because Mustafa Ali compared to Hiromu is a much more typical high flyer, much more unexpected, but he's also very good at changing up his style and selling. So at one point when he got hit into the turnbuckle, he was bleeding, but that selling was amazing. Hiromu used his persona, his grandeur, his personality to add extra layers to this match, making it not just an amazing technical wrestling match, but an amazing storytelling match. Now, Mustafa Ali got the win in the end, which is not surprising as this man is dripping in gold. But I also understand this from a Hiromu story point of view. Hiromu lost the title to Sho. No, he lost it to Desperado at Wrestle Kingdom. And since then, he has been losing. He lost to Doki. He's lost in tag matches. And for me, this is like, especially ahead of the Best of Super Junior, a really nice journey for Hiromu to see, is he going to have his redemption arc? Remember, in the last shows for the New Japan Cup final, I believe that him and Bushi are going for the tag titles. So that will be something to watch in their matches if they're against the War Dogs. So, while it might not be the best result for LIJ fans, I think it was right in terms of booking. We then got into the final stretch of matches. And before, and let me double check, the 3 main events, I guess I can count it as that. We had a chaotic, no DQ tornado tag match. So initially the feud was between Eddie Kingston and, he's a fucking madman, Gabriel Kidd. And they came out with tag team partners. So Gabe Kidd obviously had the War Dogs. So we had Clark Connors, David Finlay, and Kenta, who was sporting some very nice cargo pants. Eddie Kingston had Homicide. And shockingly enough, the Empire's Jeff Cobb and TJP, who we all know still have beef with the War Dogs. They will always have beef with the War Dogs. This was as chaotic as expected. There was bins, kendo sticks, chairs. What was quite interesting was the dynamic in each team. So obviously we saw TJP sort of being questioned by the Empire members in the past show, but here we saw Cobb working quite well with him. On the other hand, we saw Gabe taking control of the War Dogs. Now, while that's not exactly odd, the fact that Finlay, the leader, was there and he was taking directions from Gabe seems like there could be a turn in the tide of War Dogs, which I think is very welcome. In the end, Gabe got the win by pinning Homicide. And obviously this wasn't enough for Eddie Kingston. So he has challenged Gabe for another match. And that's going to be crazy. I'm never really a fan of these kind of DQ matches with loads of props and stuff. But these 8 men made it work perfectly. And I think one of the best things that has happened in New Japan this year is Gabriel Kidd re-signing with the company. And this shows that they're really trying to hype him up. Because remember, he also challenged Shingo Takagi for the Never title. While there is no date set for that, that should be interesting to watch. We then had another title match, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't watch it. It was the New Japan Television Champion, Matt Riddle, facing Zack. Now, in the past I've shared my ick for Matt Riddle, and this, I couldn't watch it. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, I was tired, my brain can't cope with it. But on the plus, Zack Sabre Jr. won the title. Now, this is very interesting, and I'm not going to talk about the match because I didn't watch it. I'm going to talk about the discourse surrounding it. So I have watched clips of the ending, and basically Zack won with a roll-up. Matt Riddle went out like nothing had happened, which fair enough, it was a roll-up. Interacted with the crowd, had a very blasé reaction. Now, I personally think something has happened with New Japan and Matt Riddle because they seemed all in on him. He was having defense after defense. They were really hyping him up. They did not even advertise Matt Riddle on the poster for Windy City Riot. So, seeing his attitude, the way he walked out, I think New Japan has cut ties with him. Whether he has done something personally, or the fact that they probably expected more of a reaction. And every show he has been on, whether it is in the US or in Japan, nobody has given a shit about him. So, along with many other New Japan fans, I hope this is the last time we see Matt Riddle. And I want to say that this is contrasting with the next match. So we saw IWGP Global Champion Nick Nemeth facing Tomohiro Ishii. Nick Nemeth is someone who has instantly grabbed the attention of New Japan fans both abroad and in Japan. And this match has shown that while there were some people skeptical, Nick Nemeth has adapted to New Japan style very well. And that is done by facing the man, Tomohiro Ishii. For me, the standard bearer. If you want to be respected in New Japan, you have to beat Ishii. And this match was phenomenal. Yes, Nick Nemeth is flashy and like stylish, but he was selling it so well. Some people, I have seen people wrestle Ishii and they just don't sell. They're like, okay, yeah, but Ishii does things with a purpose. And the way that Nick Nemeth was reacting to Ishii was like Ishii's the strongest man in the world. Now, obviously, it wasn't a title match because Nick Nemeth said, the first person I want to challenge for this is Tanahashi. Which, fair enough. I would also want to challenge Tanahashi. But I think it has shown that while some decisions with putting belts on Gaikokujins and foreigners is always a bit skeptical, Nick Nemeth is proving that he really wants to be an ambassador for New Japan. And funnily enough, that really nicely brings me on to the main event and probably, surprisingly, the most controversial result of the entire card. So we had Tetsuya Naito, the IWGP heavyweight champion, facing Jon Moxley. Going into this match, I was very on the fence. I did not know which way this result was going to be. I didn't mind either way. I thought Naito winning would be great, Moxley winning would be something interesting. And this match itself was great. The crowd was split from the very beginning. Moxley got a massive pop. Naito got a massive pop. And the match itself was really good. Of course there was blood. I think that Moxley particularly shined in this. I feel like Naito, and I'm going to discuss this a bit later, Naito had a few missteps, and I feel like he has been working like a workhorse recently, winning the G1, then Wrestle Kingdom, then he's had defenses, he's had tag matches. But it was very good in the sense that, like before the match started, I didn't know who was going to win. We saw Naito hit Destinos, but not get the win. Moxley hit, is it Death Rider? Death Rider and not getting the pin, which is their two respective finishers. Now, in the end, after, I'm going to keep checking, 20 minutes, a really nicely paced match, Jon Moxley got the win. And what I liked was just the dynamic between the two. They have really been building up this match with Moxley talking about the connection between him and Naito. Naito talking about his growing love for the belt. Now, I was shocked to see the split discourse on this. Now, I have never been a fan of non-contracted or part-time New Japan fan wrestlers. Not fans, we could win a title if you want, winning a title. However, and I think a lot of people were very angry about this. God, I saw some really intense thoughts online. Like, I don't look at the Reddit anymore because it's very toxic and people are very negative. I saw people say, New Japan is dead, they're cancelling their New Japan World subscription, Tanahashi is sucking up to Tony Khan, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I have been very reluctant. Back in 2018 when Moxley won the US title, I wasn't happy. However, since then and all the appearance Moxley has done for New Japan, he has proved that he loves the company as much as a Tetsuya Naito, as much as the other guys in the company. And it's not the first time that New Japan has done it. AJ Styles has had the title. Kenny Omega has won the title. So many part-time, Brock Lesnar. So why is there such a discourse over a man who genuinely loves the company? Even after he won the title, he said, right, New Japan is going to be my priority. I am going to hold this title proudly and use it to bump up the next generation. Of course, if they were going to have Naito losing it, it should have been to Tsuji. That makes sense. I also get the discourse that Naito should have held it for longer because, hell, this is Naito's third reign and they've never lasted. This was actually his most successful reign. However, as I touched upon when talking about the match, I don't think Naito is in the best body shape. His knees seem knackered. I think he needs a break. So while, is it the best decision to put on Moxley? Maybe not. There is much better. I am not angry about this. And I think people need to chill out because there was a lot of Japanese fans who were congratulating Moxley. Because remember, this man is so over in both the West and Japan. And like he said, he's not really been contracted for many AEW shows. So maybe we'll see him more in Japan. And he said about the new generation. So straight away, he called out Shota Umino. He's obviously his young lion, the most viewed video in New Japan world, and said he wanted him to challenge. As Shota comes out, who instead does it? Ren Narita. 2 members of the Reiwa Musketeers, and it seems like Narita is going to be the next challenger. We will see. I think this storyline, if they can bring it back to Shota winning the title at some point, it is going to be perfect. I hope that Moxley stays in Japan for a prolonged period of time. We see him in the G1 and things. He defends it on the big shows. So for now, I can't be critical of it. Do you know what I mean? Until it's happened. It's like when Kenny won the US title. At first, I was fine with it. And then as I realised he didn't defend it, didn't show it proudly, then that's where the criticism happens. If that happens with Moxley, I will look back and say, you know what? Fair enough, it wasn't the right decision. However, personally for me, if you're going to give it to a part-timer, give it to someone who loves the company. That's just my take. I know that other people might not agree. But yeah. Maybe it's also the personal link I have to Moxley. When I started watching wrestling and WWE, Dean Ambrose was the wrestler that I was obsessed with the most. The Lunatic Fringe, he was my favourite. So maybe there's a bit of bias there. I personally think this was probably, like I said at the start, New Japan Strong's best show. A really strong show in general for New Japan in 2024. We've seen new champions, new storylines, things moving forward, and I really like that, especially as we're coming ahead of the Best of Super Junior. We've got the Dontaku show, we've got Dominion and the G1. This year is going to be packed, and I see many bright things. If you are criticising the company over this Moxley decision, might be time to take a break from New Japan. Come back to us when you feel more comfortable. But sadly, bitching and whining on Twitter or X is not going to get Gato, Rocky, whoever's booking, to change what they're going to do. Because I always like to think that everything in New Japan is done for a reason, and we look at long-term booking. And I hope that this long-term booking leads to a Shota Umino title reign. So yeah, that is my thoughts on the show. I'm very tired, so if this is incoherent, I'm very sorry. But let me know your thoughts. Obviously, follow me on at wrestling_chat on social media. You can talk to me there, because I was live tweeting throughout the entire show from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. You can let me know in the comments, so favourite matches, thoughts on the main event, what you think is going to happen going forward, MVPs, LVPs, that whole thing. And while you're there, remember to hit like, share it with your friends, and hit subscribe. Like I said, I'm sorry that for the New Japan Cup final, I was not the New Japan Cup final. The last New Japan show, I was not available because obviously I was on holiday. But there is nothing planned for the future, so I'll be here covering shows, tournaments. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the show. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you very soon. Bye!